Hello and welcome to Friends That Invest, the podcast that feels like a voice note from your favorite finance friend. I'm Sim Kaur and I am wildly passionate about money. So every week I'm going to break down investing and personal finance so that the group chat can all get richer together. I'm so excited for this new season of Friends That Invest. I'm so excited for 2026. I feel like I have had a mental glow up and it's just going to be the best season. I'm so excited for the episodes that are coming out this year. So let's start off with the 3 things that I'm going to be doing this year to make sure 2026 is going to be my wealthiest year yet. And I'm going to break it down into 3 chapters: the Girl Get Up method, the Friendship Circle method, and the Burn Book method. Before we get into it, I just want to say thank you to everyone that has been listening to this podcast. We are now in our 6th year of Friends That Invest. I started this podcast in 2020. That was 6 years ago. I am now 29. I started this podcast when I was 23. And so I am just so in awe of how many of you have been listening for so long. I had a 14-year-old tell me that she was listening since she was 14. I had someone, wait, that only means she's been listening for a year. Well, that's fine. That's totally okay. I also had someone tell me that she has been listening to Friends That Invest since she was 22 and now she is 26. And the fact that this podcast has been a constant in some of our Investy Besties lives, like pre-frontal lobe and now post-frontal lobe. I'm so excited, but things are good. We have a new podcast cover. We have a new brand. We have a new website, but the podcast is still going to be the same, breaking down money, breaking down investing, just having like a girly chat in the living room on my floor. And I just wanted to say thank you to everyone that sent so much kindness my way in my last YouTube video where I recorded that I was going to stop recording for the rest of the year and just take it easy and reset. So let's get into chapter 1, which is the Girl Get Up method, or like the growth mindset method. A growth mindset is something that I think a lot of us hear about, but then we kind of get confused. We're like, what does this mean? Why is this important? And it's a term coined by psychologist Carol Dweck. And she basically said that no one is bad at things. Like no one is just bad at money forever. No one is just bad at numbers forever. And I cannot tell you how many times I meet like an investy bestie out in the wild and they're like, I just never thought I could invest. I never thought like investing was for me. And I get it. I think there is such a huge barrier between where you are right now and where you want to be. But the barrier that holds you back, besides systemic barriers like being a woman or being a woman of color or having like disabilities or not starting out on the same playing field, besides those, one of the biggest barriers that is within our circle of control is if we have a growth mindset or not. And I really felt this last year in 2025 when I was just spending so much of my time comparing myself to others, especially people online. I think social media is such a blessing because I get to see things that like I would never otherwise see. But then I'm also at the same time so fearful because like I saw this video of like AI bunny. I didn't realize they were AI at the time, but like bunnies jumping up and down on a trampoline. And it turns out the video was completely fake. And my friends that are medically trained doctors sent me this video of this grandma, like, you know, being all like female empowerment. And I was like, guys, this is like an AI video. And they're like, no, this grandma is real. Like she has an Instagram account. And it was just like an AI grandmother. And they were doubling down. And you just can't be that friend that's like, guys, I think you just aren't chronically online the way I am. And I can tell that this is AI. There's just so much AI slop online. But besides that, one of the other issues I've been having with social media is I have been comparing my life to other people around me. Like there was this influence. I still remember where I was. She had bought this huge home in Sydney, Australia. It was the dream home. It was like this big, beautiful home with like natural light on the top of a hill. And guys, I need you to know something about me. I'm like Kim Kardashian when it comes to like figuring out things. I can figure out anything. I am like a little mini FBI agent. If you want me to find out something, I can find it out. Like, and which is probably why I'm so careful about what I post online, because I know that there are people that are like me that can, you show me like the corner of your new house, I will find that listing. And so I was able to find the listing of this home this influencer bought, and it was like $6 million. And it just stopped me in my tracks Because what 30-year-old is buying a $6 million home? And then, of course, I started going down a rabbit hole where I was like, okay, $6 million house, like minimum, you put down like a 20% deposit. She's definitely not just putting 20% deposit down. So maybe like a 30% deposit. 30% of $6 million, that's $1.8 million cash down on a house. And I was just like, what am I doing wrong? Like, how have I not ended up in a better financial position? And I was just spiraling. And it's kind of funny in hindsight, but it like totally ruined my mood for the rest of the evening. And I had to step out of it and kind of realize that I was inhibiting what's called like a fixed mindset. So there's this incredible book I read called Mindset, funnily enough, and it speaks on these two different types of mindsets that people can have, growth and fixed. And if you want to know if you have a growth mindset or a fixed mindset, it often comes down to what you think you can do and what you can't do. Obviously within the realm of like normalcy, like I can't go rob a bank tomorrow. I could actually, no, I take that back. I could, but like there would be consequences and I wouldn't be able to enjoy a $6 million house. And I had to like kind of sit down and remind myself like, look, Sim, if you want this thing and it's making you feel kind of jealous and uncomfortable, that is actually a really good thing. And the other side of me was like, Sim, what are you saying? And I was like, no, Sim, listen. If you feel some type of way about this person buying a house, clearly there is a little slither of an indication that it's like a signal. You clearly want a nicer home. You clearly value where you live. And that's a good thing. Now let's like set up a plan to improve your current living situation. And so of course I couldn't just go out and like buy a big, beautiful home. Again, I can't because I would rather invest that money. And so I had to allow myself to understand like, okay, I could go and buy a big house, but that's not my goal. My goal is to invest until I can retire early and have like a passive source of income. So I'm going to keep doing that. And that's a choice. I also had to remind myself, well, clearly I value a nice home. So let me like invest in, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see like, let me invest in like sprucing up my place and getting like a nice picture frame and some cute little decor and let me make it all pretty for the holiday season. And so anytime I feel that kind of way where I see something and I want it, I've realized that I need to have a growth mindset and go, that's such a cool thing that this person's achieved. What a cool achievement that they bought that car. What a cool achievement that they got that house. What a cool achievement that they're going on holiday. What a cool achievement that they've bought like a Porsche. I mean, I cannot get over these cars. And instead of being like, that sucks for me, I've had to retrain my mindset and go, that's so cool. And what can I do within my world to achieve that goal or something similar? Because clearly it's this like jealousy is reflecting a deeper desire that I have that maybe I'm not like allowing myself to explore. And the things with these mindset shifts is they actually really make like such an impact. Like, for example, there is something called the present bias, which is when we would rather prefer instant gratification over like a long-term gain. There's also the loss aversion theory where we were like, you know what? If I lose $100, that's going to hurt me so much more than if I gain $100. We also have the anchoring effect where the first price that we see is the one that we set ourselves to and the one that we gravitate to. So if we like see something that is $100 and then we go and compare it to something else, the first one that we see, we're like, well, that like hair curling iron was $100 and this other one is $50. So maybe that first one was better, even if it makes like no sense. It was just the first one that you saw. So there's actually a number of things that our brain is doing in subconscious ways that affects our mindset. And while we can't really change the biases that we experience, just being aware of them and being aware of our mindset can make such a difference for the year ahead. In my opinion, I think it's hard to try and get better with money if you're not like just aligned with a growth mindset, because you could literally make $10,000 extra this year or $100,000 investment portfolio or a big salary or all these crazy big things. You could get a huge bonus. And yet if you don't have the right mindset, that money like just disappears and it doesn't feel good and you don't hold on to it. So how do we make sure that we have a growth mindset? And how do we know if we have one or not? I'm going to ask you a question. Whether you're driving, whether you are working from home, you are on your hot girl walk, I'm going to say a sentence and I want you to finish that sentence for me. If I say money is what do you finish that with? Now, if I was to do it, I would say money is evil. Money is greedy. Money is something that causes a lot of stress and pain and makes other people uncomfortable. And that is a sign of a fixed mindset. Now, where I'd like to be is if I'm like, money is helpful. Money is freedom. Money is having options. Money is a tool that can make my life better and a tool that I can use to help others. And so what I want you to do for the rest of 2026, I know it's just started, but like we're starting off strong, is I want you to just check yourself every time, just catch yourself every time you realize that you are showing like fixed mindset strategies. Every time you have a thought and you're like, oh, must be nice. Must be nice that they got a pay rise. Must be nice that they finally bought a home. Must be nice that they're going on another holiday. And instead of must be nice, just try and understand, why do I feel this way? Is that something I want? And if it is, fantastic. Now I've recognized something that is a desire of mine, and I can set a plan in place to reach that goal. It doesn't have to look the exact same as the person that I'm watching, but just something that makes it work for me. And when you can do that, I promise you, so much of 2026 is going to go by so much easier, because if you have like two friends and one is always like, must be nice, must be nice, must be nice, and the other one is like, I want that. How do I make it work? Oh, that's really cool. How do I make it happen? Oh, that's really interesting. Is that something I can try and do myself? You can imagine that after 365 days of the two friends, which one is going to be better off? Even if they make the same amount of money to begin with and have the same circumstances to begin with, the difference is in the mindset, because it compounds and you start looking for opportunities, and it just makes such a difference. This now leads us on to chapter 2. And chapter 2 is the friendship circle method. This is also known as the bogglehead method, and it's something that I've spoken about in the past, but it is not spoken about enough, because if I go down to someone on the street and I'm like, do you know what the bogglehead method is? There's a good chance she probably doesn't, or he probably doesn't. And for that reason, I'm going to keep like drilling this one point home for as long as I can, until someone comes up to me on the street and is like, Sim, stop with the bogglehead method. We get it. But the bogglehead method, or the friendship circle method, is this type of investing style, because so much of this new year and wanting to invest can feel really overwhelming if you're not sure if you're doing it the right way. If you're like, okay, Sim, like I've started investing. Fantastic. I have opened up a brokerage. And then I look at the apps, I look at all the investments available. My God, there are thousands of them, thousands of funds, thousands of individual companies, thousands of places and industries to invest in and countries to invest in. Do I invest in the US? Do I invest in Europe? Do I invest in Asia Pacific? Do I invest in emerging markets? It is too overwhelming. It is January, you close your laptop and you're like, I will deal with this later. And then later never comes, and then it's 2027, and then you're watching this video a whole year later. Does that sound a little bit familiar? But essentially, what I want to reiterate is the friendship circle method is the most simple and easiest way to build your first investment portfolio. And this is by no means like so simple that it's bad or so simple that it's dumb. When it comes to money, I find that in other industries, the more complicated things are, the more people are like very impressed. Like, oh, if I want to like be really, really, fit, then I should probably have all these complicated processes. And yet it's actually just simply working out, eating clean. I actually don't know. I'm not getting fit. So I actually cannot speak on the behalf of what that would look like. But the idea that you need to overcomplicate things to be good with money and to be a good investor is so wrong. And so the friendship method is having 3 friends like you would have in a friend group, you're going to have in your investment portfolio. You're going to have a fun local friend, a fun international friend, and a stable friend. And just like how in your life you would have different friends for different things, they all add value together. Because if you just hang out with your fun local friend, you're just going to like go to the same places that you've grown up, go and talk about the same people, relive like the same life that you've always lived. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but you also like, how refreshing is it when your friend that lives overseas comes over and they talk about the new experiences they have and the people they meet, and they're like eat, pray, love experiences. And you're just like, wow, that is so cool. But you don't want to just hang out with the international friend. Sometimes they have like some crazier stories and you're like, I really know if I want that. And then you also have your stable friend, the one that tells you the things that maybe you don't want to hear. But when you have like a question and you kind of go to a different friend depending on the answer you want to hear, like if the real answer is like, I think it's time to move on, you definitely don't go to your like stable friend for advice. You go to your fun international friend that's like, whoa, like do whatever you want, girl. It's kind of similar in investing. And so when you are setting up your investment portfolio, you want to have a fun local fund, a fun international fund, and a stable fund. The fun local fund is going to be a index fund or exchange traded fund equivalent, and that is going to be a fund in your home country. So if you live in Europe, maybe it's the FTSE 100. If you live in Australia, maybe it's the ASX 200. In the US, maybe it's the S&P 500. In New Zealand, maybe the NZX 50. And if you're not sure, usually people go straight for an S&P 500, even if they're not based in America, because an S&P 500 has most of those companies that you know and have grown to love, and they're things that you're usually familiar with, like Apple and Amazon and Microsoft. And that is going to help create a diversified portfolio in different sectors. It's definitely more tech heavy, but these are some of the largest companies in the world. So we like that. We want to invest in them. The second is now your international fund. So you've got your fund local fund, the first one. Second is your international fund. And your international fund is going to be the fund that allows you to invest in emerging markets. I have seen a real increase in investee besties asking about if they should be diversifying away from the US market. And I think we are all kind of questioning that just with the last couple of years, especially in 2025. You start to wonder, like with tariffs and geopolitical tensions and political parties, maybe not aligning with what you want. There's so many things that just continue to happen, and it starts to feel like a slow and steady brewing of, is it safe to keep all my money in one country's share market? And so we're seeing a lot of them starting to invest in emerging funds. Emerging funds are funds that invest in emerging markets. So this is in countries like China or India or Taiwan. These are companies that are growing a lot faster, and they're growing with much larger populations. And so there is a pretty decent argument that maybe they might even overtake something like the S&P 500's returns. I believe it was JP Morgan or Deloitte that did a bit of research and suggested that over the next 10 years, emerging market returns will be larger than S&P 500 returns. This is as useful as me saying, if you are a Sagittarius in the next 10 years, you will be happier, or you will be in a different era of your life. It's just predictions about the share market are as solid as horoscopes. They feel something, but they're not necessarily backed by actual data. Sorry to my horoscope girlies. I do apologize. So now you've got your international fund, you've got your domestic fund, but these are all investments in stocks, and stocks are actually quite risky. So then you want to have your stable fund, and that's what's called a bond ETF. Now, you might be wondering, well, Sim, okay, across my funds, the ones that are in stocks, the two, and then the one that's in bonds, how much should I have across all of them? If I have $1,000 or $100 or $10,000, how do I split it up? And you basically can split it up based on your risk tolerance. If you have a higher risk tolerance and you want to invest in more stocks than bonds because you want a higher risk for a higher reward, then you could put 80% into funds and shares and 20% into your bond ETF. If you're I want to be 50-50, then you would do 50% bonds, 50% stock funds. And if you're unsure of what that split should look like, I always say, just tell me what your decade is, and then that decade is the amount of money that you should have in bonds. So if you're in your 20s, a 20% bond and an 80% of stocks. If you're 70% bonds and only 20% stocks. And so the age group that you're in kind of determines if you should be taking on more risk when you're younger or less risk when you're getting closer to retirement. But I just so hope I am retired by 70. If I am still doing this podcast at 70 because I have not retired, please send me hate mail. That is outrageous. So let's get straight into chapter 3, the burn book, or the investments to avoid. These are the investments that you want to make sure you do not put your money into 2026, because these things are going to, more likely than not, have some bad news with them. These investments are like the people that you meet and you're like, this is very alluring and this feels kind of cool and I've never met someone like this. And there's usually a reason. And sometimes you have like a little voice in your head that's like, Sim, don't do it. Sim, don't do it. Don't do it. And yet you're like, maybe I do it. And then you do it. And then you realize, oh, this needs to go in the burn book. Like I should have avoided this investment, but I didn't. And so I'm here to teach you from my mistakes because that is what an older best friend does. That is what an older sister does. And that is what I'm here for. So there's a couple of investments that you want to stay clear of because making a good return in 2026 is not just like investing in good things, but also avoiding investing in bad things. First one is anything that promises more than a 7% return. If I am online and I see some like ad and it's like, hey, invest in our mortgage fund, you get a 10% guaranteed return, my alarm bells are ringing because no one can guarantee a return, first of all. Second of all, the average annualized return of the share market over a 40-year period is 7%. And so if someone is telling you that they can get you more than that, I would just run. I just do not want anyone to like fall for a scam or some kind of like issue. And to be honest, one of those mortgage funds that I kept getting ads for ended up getting in a lot of trouble and having their assets frozen. So say what you will. The second type of investment you want to avoid is FOMO investing. And FOMO investing is not a particular stock, but it's stocks that people invest in solely because they see other people investing in it. And they have the fear of missing out. It's like going and buying that, what is it, that like saddle Dior handbag, the one that like looks like a liver. And I just do not find that handbag cute. And yet I feel like so many people buy it because they see it everywhere. And that is an example of like FOMO purchasing. And so FOMO investing is very similar. It's going, oh my God, like GameStop is going up. Let me buy it, even though I don't understand why it's going up. Like everyone's talking about this AI stock and I don't really get it, but I'm just going to invest in it. If something doesn't make sense, you are actually so wise to not invest in it because it can often be like that story of the emperor's new clothes. Have you heard that story before? It's like that story of the emperor and he is like walking around with no clothes on because he met this new merchant that was like, try this beautiful new fabric. It's like so incredible. Just try it on. They were pretending like they were like sewing it and putting it on him. They were like, wow, he looks incredible. And the emperor was like, I'm literally in my underwear. But then everyone else around him was like, yes, men. And they were like, oh my God, yeah, you look absolutely amazing. And then they paraded him like down the street, like, look at the emperor's new clothes. Isn't he so beautiful? And then this kid was the one that pointed out like, wait, the emperor is literally in his boxers. Like this man is not wearing clothes. And the whole story is sometimes we all are thinking the same thing, but we're scared to go against the grain. And so FOMO investing is like similar. Like don't be scared to be that kid and be like, I don't think NFTs are going to work. It's okay if everyone else disagrees with you. Like trust that little gut voice feeling that you have when it comes to those speculative investments. It will definitely be better than ignoring it. Now, the next investment that you probably want to avoid is penny stocks. These are stocks that you can buy over the counter with like OTC investments, but these are often very, very new companies that trade for like less than $1. And yes, you can make money from them because like if a stock that's worth $0.0007 exists and you buy like $10 worth, you've bought a lot of stock. And if those stocks then move up to like $1 a share, oh my God, you would have made such a high return. But there's also a very, very, very likely chance that it completely goes to zero and you lose all your money. And penny stocks are probably the more closer thing to speculative investing than like, you know, a blue chip stocks or growth stocks. And of course, I am sure in 2026, there will be more things that come out that make absolutely no sense and have no intrinsic value. If you are trying to decide between if you should invest in something or not, just ask yourself, does this have intrinsic value? Intrinsic value means that if I like get a stock of Apple and I'm like, I'm not sure if this has intrinsic value, what I can say is, well, this is a stock of a company. This is a real company. This has real people. They make real products like iPhones and laptops and AirPods, and I can go and see them and I can go and find their manufacturer and it exists. And even if the share price of the stock drops, there are people buying these products and there is a profit being made, and there is an intrinsic value of like, if this company was to go bust, they can sell their stock, they can sell their manufacturing warehouses, they can sell their things, and there will be money that can like be made out of this. There's intrinsic value. Whereas if you look at something like a cryptocurrency like Bitcoin, or you look at an NFT, or you look at Web3, or you look at, do you remember when people were buying land in the metaverse? Like what a fever dream that was. There will be more things like that that come out. I don't know what they will be, but I think like every single year something turns up and it's the new hype and it's the next best thing. But the best thing that you can do for yourself, because you are a smart woman, you are listening to this podcast, you are figuring things out, is you just ask yourself, does this thing have intrinsic value? Or is everyone else just looking at it like the emperor's new clothes and they're all pretending it's the next hottest thing, and I'm just scared of like looking silly and not agreeing? Or am I going to be smart and just take a pause and take a second? And so if you do all these three things, these three different chapters where you have a growth mindset, you use the friendship circle method of investing, and you avoid making investments in what I consider my burn book, you are going to have such a great year. I have loved receiving so much of the feedback from last year of like the returns the Investy Besties have made in their share portfolio. We had people making 20% returns, 30% returns. Someone made a 70% return and someone else made 130% return year to date. And I was very, very, very blown away. If you stick to just general investment principles, you are going to be able to at least meet market return. In 2025, the market returned around 17%. So even if you got around that, that is absolutely incredible. And I am so happy about this podcast coming back. I'm so excited to have you here. And if you enjoyed this, please, I have one ask of you. Take a screenshot, put it on your Instagram story, tag friends that invest, because it is the best way that we can get this podcast out to more people. And what more can we ask for than a world with more financial literacy? So with that, I'll see you next week.